I have decided that today we are going to go back to the roots of Giant Monster games, and we're going to make a under $40 budget deck that is more for casual players and people that like life gain. So let's go take a look at It Really Adds Up. Welcome back to Giant Monster Games. My name is Adrian, and today, as I said, we're doing It Really Adds Up, which is, if you're wondering what It Really Adds Up is, it is a life gain deck. We are trying to take advantage of specific cards such as Ajani's Pridemate, Lone Rider, and Voracious Wurm. So all of these cards trigger depending on if we gain life. So Ajani's Pridemate, which you've probably seen before, it's been used multiple times. Whenever you gain life, you put a 1/1 counter on Ajani's Pridemate. Yes, it is not as much life you gain. So if you gain 4 life, you do not put 4 counters on it, you put 1 counter on it for each instance in which you gained life. Lone Rider reads that at the beginning of your end step, if you gained 3 or more life this turn, transform Lone Rider. It transforms into it that rides as 1, which is an Eldrazi horror creature that has first strike, trample, and lifelink, and it is a 4/4. So ideally, flipping this on turn 3 is really fun to swing into your opponent's face with a 4/4 lifelinker, which is very fun. And then Voracious Wurm, which is the winning card of this deck. It is like the deck is built around this card, to be quite honest. It is when it enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. So, if you haven't been able to guess, we are going to gain a lot of life, and we're going to gain a lot of life in large doses. So, what kind of things are we gaining life with? Well, we have a couple of the Soul Sisters, specifically Soul Warden and Essence Warden. I guess I should call them Essence, or Warden Sisters. Maybe they're the Warden Sisters. So, I mean, mind you, one's an elf, one's a human, so they're not really sisters. They're like sisters from another mother? I mean, I'm not really sure if that saying works at all. Either way, both of these cards are whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, which is a way of us gaining a bunch of life persistently to trigger Ajani's Pridemate and hopefully flip our Lone Rider / make our Voracious Wurm much bigger. The other things we have a couple other creatures we want to be taking full advantage of. We have Ageless Entity and Cathedral Sanctifier. Yep, that's the way I'm gonna pronounce that card. Okay, so Ageless Entity is whenever you gain life, put that many 1/1 counters on Ageless Entity. So it's how I would love for Ajani's Pridemate to work. So it is going to be gaining a lot of life. We're only running 1 in the deck because it is a kind of a really late game, can be destroyed and you lose a lot of value. So we're only running 1. Because we only need 1. It is a finisher if we manage to get it out into play and our opponent has no answer for it. And then
Cathedral Sanctifier
is literally just a 1 drop that gains us 3 life, which is going to allow us to flip Lone Rider and do a bunch of other stuff. Example, if we're playing this along with one of our Voracious Wurms, our Voracious Wurm is going to come into play with 3 1/1 counters, which is a 5/5 for 2 mana, which is pretty cool. It's just another way of us gaining life and actually getting a body into play, not onto play. We don't want to ever put stuff on play because no one likes stuff. I mean, I don't want to flop my body onto the play field because that seems really weird. I'm not really sure where this tangent is going. So we're going to move over to other life gain cards. So other life gain that we have in the deck. I want to talk about Voracious Wurm in this life gain section because a lot of the stuff actually triggers Voracious Wurm in a very big way. We have Life Goes On and Chaplain's Blessing. So both of these cards fly in the face of how you play Magic nowadays. The idea is you don't want to play just I gain life cards. They never are effective. You don't win the game by having more life than your opponent. You win the game by your opponent having no life. So these cards fly in the face of what Magic is supposed to be. Both of them gain us life. So Life Goes On gains you 4 life immediately at instant speed, which is really fun. If a creature died this turn, you gain 8 life. So if one of our creatures died, then we play Life Goes On and for 8 life, and then we play our Voracious Wurm. It's going to come in as a 10/10 for 2 mana, which is super funny. More likely what will happen is we'll play a Chaplain's Blessing because we actually have 4 Chaplain's Blessing in the deck, which is we gain 5 life, which means our Voracious Wurm comes in as a 7/7. So, as you can see, the Voracious Wurm is the real big combo piece of this deck and tends to be the beater that is the creature we want, but maybe we don't deserve because we are a Selesnya life gain deck, so that is something to keep in mind. We do have other cards, though. We do have other cards that do other things. We have Blessed Alliance, Survival Cache, and Angelic Accord. So all these cards are doing other life-gainy or life-gainy interaction things. Blessed Alliance, slices, dices, cuts, chops, grinds. I've used this joke 100 times. That rhymes. And so does rhymes deals with times. Oh my god, I'm a lyrical master here. So we can use it to gain 4 life if we need to. We can use it to tap up to 2 target creatures, or more likely, we're going to use it to make target opponents sacrifice an attacking creature, which, again, most commonly this is what it's actually going to be used for. But if we do need to use to gain some life, we can do that. Or if we have enough to escalate it, we can escalate it for 2 or more of these modes, which is very exciting. Survival Cache is the next one that's really interesting. So we gain 2 life, and then if we have more life than our opponent, which should happen, we are a life gain deck, then we get to draw a card. It also has Rebound, so we get to exile it, and at the beginning of our next turn, we get to play it again. So something that's really neat about this card, you play this on, say, turn 3, and then turn 4, you play another card that gains you more life, and then you play a Voracious Wurm. You gain 2 life already this turn, plus if you play another life gain card, you gain more life, and then Voracious Wurm comes in with a ton of counters. So he can come in as like a magillion, which is the general idea if you haven't got what I'm getting at here. And then Angelic Accord is at the beginning of your end step. If you gained 4 or more life this turn, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying into play. So it's a way of us getting other evasion-y type flying creatures, really is the whole point of this. It's not the easiest to trigger. I would likely say that if you get this into play, you're probably going to trigger it 2 or 3 times at most. And usually that's enough to actually finish the game. Just throwing it out there, that usually if you can get it to trigger 2 or 3 times with your opponent removing this card, you're going to win the game. So yeah, it's something that happens. And then, I know you're asking, you're looking at yourself and saying, well, Adrian, I get it, there's some cool stuff, but what about card draw? I feel like we want card draw. Well, I have Harmonize and Well of Lost Dreams. You guys have seen Harmonize like a billion times. It is pay 4 mana, draw 3 cards. Pretty exciting, I know. That's mind-blowing. And then Well of Lost Dreams, which is actually pretty cool, is whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you gained. You then draw X cards. So if we manage to get this into play, we manage to get it to stick around, which, yeah, it may happen. If you're playing more casual, probably stick around. You get to start drawing a lot of cards, which actually gives the deck the gasoline it needs to, well, I mean, when you have gasoline, it means you get to either drive very far or you are going to cause arson. So it allows you to arsonize your opponent's deck, which is never good. Try not to burn, unless you're playing burn. Unless you are a burn player, then this card, you get the idea. Anyways, moving over to our land section, seeing how I should probably stay on topic, seeing how that's the whole point of making a deck. So, lands. Blossoming Sands and Sunpetal Grove. Sunpetal Grove, as you can see, it's clearly a land that is a check land. So when it comes into play, if you have a plains or a forest, it comes into play untapped, which is really handy. But Blossoming Sands happens to gain you life, which I never thought I would be happy to play a land that comes into play tapped, but it gains you 1 life. So there's that. We have that going for us. And then we have 7 forests and 9 plains. For all of our mana needs. And that is the entire main deck, but before we break down this sideboard and the upgrade section, if you want to pick this deck up in paper, go over to Flipside Gaming and use promo code GIANTMONSTERGAMES to get 10% off your online purchase. Or, if you want to pick this deck up for MTGO, there is a link to Card Hoarder in the description below this video. Both of these things help out the channel directly by you playing Magic. So, if you want to do that, that would be amazing. Okay, jumping over to the sideboard. Starting out, we have Oblivion Ring and Day of Judgment. They are a way of us removing stuff, largely creatures, specifically mass amounts of creatures. Oblivion Ring actually hits on like everything, so Oblivion Ring is fantastic. Then we have Nature's Claim and Tormod's Crypt. More targeted hate. If you need to get rid of enchantments, you need to get rid of artifacts, you need to get rid of things, ensnaring bridges, goodbye, or graveyards, goodbye. We have some way of dealing with those things, which is always nice. And then we have 3 other cards that are doing a bunch of other stuff, so I'm going to lump them all together. We have Blossoming Defense, Felidar Sovereign, and Core Firewalker. None of these cards have anything to do with each other, but I lumped them together because they didn't have anywhere else to go. So, Blossoming Defense, if someone's going to remove your stuff, you have a way of protecting it, / you have a way of actually pumping your creature and making them bigger, which is nice. Felidar Sovereign is a way of having a backup win condition. If you're up against something that looks suspiciously a lot like Lantern Control, Felidar Sovereign is an interesting and possible backup win con. And then Core Firewalker, we don't have that much trouble against some red burn decks, but other red decks we do have some troubles against, so Core Firewalker can usually let us stabilize a little bit, so you can play that to help you with those. Who wants to talk about an upgrade section? Because that's what I'm going to talk about next. So, there's not much in the way of upgrading, because this is a very casual deck, and it is super built around what is currently existing. So we have Crested Sunmare and Path to Exile. The only two real suggestion upgrades, I would say. Crested Sunmare, honestly, you're gonna run one of this thing, maybe two at the very most. It is other horses you have, not other courses. I mean, this is not a class, this is a horse. Other horses you control have Indestructible, which is very cool. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, create a 5/5 white horse creature token. So that can obviously be used to create 5/5 indestructible white horses, which is neat because it triggers if you gained life. It is 5 mana, which is why I'm like, run 1 or 2. We'll see. And then Path to Exile, it's just better removal. It's way better removal. I'd like run 2 in the main board, 2 in the sideboard. If you're running against something where you need the removal, you just bring in 2 more cards from your sideboard. Yay! And that is the entire deck. I hope you guys enjoyed this format. My name is Adrian. Let's go play some games with this deck. And until next time, don't forget to game like a giant monster. Thanks for watching the video. If you guys want to support the channel directly, we do have a Patreon. You can go over there and support us and help out with all the rest of the awesome Patreon supporters that are helping make videos like this possible.